Okay, picture this. You're at Kennedy Space Center. That huge rocket is right there, ready to go.
The energy must be incredible.
Totally. And the crew's inside this amazing international team, right? Including India's astronaut. About to make history. The countdown's ticking.
Yeah.
And then silence.
Another hold. Ugh.
Exactly. Hold, hold, hold.
Mm-hmm.
Another delay. It's that feeling, isn't it? That whiplash from pure excitement to, well, just uncertainty.
Yeah, and we've seen that happen a few times now with this mission.
Absolutely. And that's what we're really digging into today. We've looked at a whole bunch of sources covering these recent delays with the Axiom-4 mission. Honestly, it's felt like a real roller coaster.
Right. You've got Mother Nature interfering. You've got technical glitches on the rocket itself.
And even issues way up high, like 400 kilometers up on the space station throwing a wrench in the works. It's just been one thing after another.
But underneath all that frustration, the waiting, there's a really, really important story here. It's about priorities in spaceflight.
And specifically, this absolute focus on safety from one key player involved. It's non-negotiable.
That seems to be the core message coming through.
Yeah. So that's our mission for this deep dive. Figure out why these setbacks keep happening, really grasp how significant this mission is, especially for India, and focus in on that critical safety-first approach, no matter what.
Okay, that's good. So maybe let's start with the basics. What exactly is Axiom-4? Why all the buzz?
Right. Good place to start. So fundamentally, it's planned as a 14-day trip. A commercial mission heading up to the International Space Station.
Sort of like a private taxi service to the ISS, facilitated by Axiom Space?
Exactly. Axiom Space puts these missions together. And they work with the big players. NASA, of course, SpaceX provides the Falcon 9 rocket and the Dragon capsule.
And ISRO, India's space agency, is deeply involved because one of their own is on the crew.
Precisely. And that crew, it's fascinating, really international. You've got astronauts from India, Poland, Hungary, and the U.S., like a mini United Nations in space.
And the lineup is quite something. Peggy Whitson is commanding. She's a former NASA legend, holds the record for most time in space for an American. Just incredible experience.
Right, and then there's Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla from the Indian Air Force. This is huge. He's said to be only the second Indian ever in space.
But, and this is the key point, isn't it? The first Indian astronaut who will actually live and conduct research on the ISS itself.
That's the big leap. Rakesh Sharma's flight in '84 was obviously groundbreaking, a Soviet mission. But this, working on the station, it's a massive step up for India's human spaceflight ambitions after, 41 years?
A very long gap. And it really signals India's serious return to putting humans in orbit. Plus, you have mission specialists from Poland and Hungary, too.
Yeah, marking significant returns for their countries as well after decades.
Yeah.
It really is a historically significant crew.
And it's not just a sightseeing trip. They've got a packed schedule. Over 60 science experiments planned for their 2 weeks up there.
60 experiments in just 14 days.
Well, it's intense. And some of the science sounds really fascinating, like studying how certain microalgae behave in microgravity. That could be, really important for future long-duration missions for food systems.
Totally. And India's contributing experiments too, right?
Yeah.
Backed by a pretty substantial investment. They're actually trying to sprout seeds up there.
Yeah.
Fenugreek and green gram.
Yeah. It sounds almost mundane, but it's fundamental research. Can you reliably grow staple food ingredients in space? If you want people living on the moon or traveling to Mars, you need to figure that out. Cosmic gardening.
Cosmic gardening, I love it. Maybe cosmic cooking experiments next.
Maybe. But getting these cosmic gardeners off the ground, well, that's been the tricky part. Let's talk about these delays. It's been quite a saga.
It really has, a string of postponements. They were originally looking at maybe late May 2025, that it slipped into June, first the 8th, then the 10th, then the 11th, and now it's just paused indefinitely.
Right. And each pushback had a specific reason. The first one, around June 9th, that was just the weather. Can't argue with high winds along the flight path from Florida.
Happens all the time with launches, right? Pretty standard delay.
Exactly. Weather scrubs are common. But then it got more technical. On June 11th, during a test fire of the Falcon 9 rocket.
A static fire test.
Yeah, that pre-launch check. Engineers found a leak. Liquid oxygen, LOX. That's your oxidizer, absolutely critical. A LOX leak means stop everything. Full stop.
Okay, so that's a serious hardware issue. You have to fix that properly.
No question. But then, almost immediately after that, another issue popped up. This time, not on the ground, but up on the ISS itself.
Seriously, what happened there?
NASA announced on June 12th they were investigating a leak on the station. Specifically in the Zvezda module, the Russian service module. It's vital for life support, navigation, basically a core part of the station.
Wow. So let me recap. First, bad weather scrubs the launch. Then they find a fuel leak on the rocket. And then while dealing with that, they discover a leak on the actual space station they're trying to fly to.
That's the sequence. It's quite remarkable, a confluence of unrelated problems hitting all at once.
And this really brings us to that safety point we mentioned earlier, especially concerning ISRO's stance.
Exactly. Because through all of this, the weather, the rocket leak, the station leak reports indicate ISRO, India's space agency, has been absolutely firm. Their message is crystal clear. Safety first. Mission integrity above all. No compromises.
And this is where you see maybe a potential contrast in approaches, or at least in risk tolerance philosophies. There were some suggestions, some reports that for the rocket leak, maybe quicker fixes were considered by others.
Right, perhaps a faster patch-up job. But ISRO reportedly dug in their heels. They insisted on thorough repairs, complete analysis, and full validation tests before even considering moving forward.
You could almost frame it as like a measure twice, cut once,
Yeah.
versus maybe a more iterative, move fast and fix things mindset sometimes associated with commercial space.
Possibly. And ISRO's leadership seems key here. Chairman V. Narayanan, who has a background in rocket propulsion systems himself, was reportedly adamant. He wanted absolute certainty that the issue was resolved, especially with a crew involved.
That makes total sense, especially when you connect it to India's bigger picture. This isn't just about Axiom-4 for them.
Not at all. This mission and the experience gained from handling these issues, particularly the focus on safety protocols under pressure, it's all feeding directly into their own human spaceflight program, Gaganyaan.
Right. Gaganyaan is India's ambitious plan to launch its own astronauts on its own rocket from Indian soil. The lessons learned here, especially about rigorous safety checks and international coordination, are invaluable.
So Axiom-4 is acting almost like a crucial stepping stone. It gets India back into the human spaceflight game after that long 41-year gap since Rakesh Sharma.
And it provides critical, hands-on experience for Gaganyaan. Shubhanshu Shukla spending 2 weeks on the ISS. The data on human adaptation, the operational know-how. You can't get that from simulations alone.
Absolutely. It's real-world learning about living and working in orbit that will directly help them fine-tune their own systems and procedures for Gaganyaan, which aims to put 3 astronauts into orbit.
So that investment in Axiom-4, it's strategic. It's buying essential knowledge and experience for their indigenous program. It's like an advanced training exercise.
And beyond Gaganyaan, it boosts India's profile internationally. It shows they can collaborate effectively on these complex, high-stakes missions. Plus, the science they're doing, the seeds, the algae has relevance for everyone looking at long-term space exploration.
And don't forget the inspiration factor. Just seeing an Indian astronaut training, preparing, even facing these delays with professionalism, that's incredibly powerful for young people in India. It makes space seem achievable.
Definitely. But let's circle back to the science itself, because despite the launch delays, that's still the core objective once they get up there.
Right. That packed 14-day schedule on the ISS. And India's experiments seem particularly focused on future life support, specifically food.
Yeah, looking at how microalgae grow, their nutritional potential in space, it's tackling that fundamental challenge of feeding crews on long journeys.
And the seed experiment trying to sprout fenugreek and green gram, seeing if they can actually germinate and grow viably in microgravity. It's a baby step towards, having fresh greens on Mars someday.
It sounds small, but it's crucial groundwork. And besides the food science, there's a whole suite of other experiments planned, right? Physics, biology, material science.
Yeah, leveraging that unique microgravity environment. Things behave differently up there. And studying that can lead to breakthroughs back here on Earth. Maybe new medicines, stronger materials, who knows?
It really puts the lab in orbiting laboratory. But at the center of it all, you have the human element. For India, that's Group Captain Shukla.
And he sounds like the right person for the job. An experienced Air Force test pilot, used to demanding situations. Though he apparently calls space a wonderful journey and a whole new challenge he feels lucky to undertake.
And he's not just sitting back, is he? He's the mission pilot, actively involved in flying the Dragon capsule alongside the commander.
Which requires immense skill and focus. And by all accounts, he's handling these delays with remarkable calm and professionalism. Reports say he's keeping spirits high, even cracking jokes.
That kind of crew cohesion and morale is vital when things get tough. For India, he really embodies that national aspiration, that push towards the future in space. And he plans to connect with people back home during the mission, too.
Bringing space a little closer to everyone. So let's talk about the stakes here. These delays aren't just inconvenient. What are the real consequences?
Well, for India, maintaining momentum is important. Public enthusiasm for space projects like Gaganyaan can be affected by long delays. It's also about cementing their reputation as a reliable international partner in space.
And for Axiom Space, the commercial provider.
Success and timeliness are key to their business model. They need to show that private missions to the ISS are viable and dependable to attract future customers and investment. Delays add question marks.
And then there's the ISS itself. The absolute priority for NASA and all the partners is station safety. That Zvezda module leak needs a definitive fix. You can't send a new crew up if their destination isn't fully secure.
Absolutely non-negotiable. Plus, there's the simple cost factor. Every delay costs money for training, for hardware processing, for mission support teams. India's investment is significant, and delays stretch those budgets.
So where are we right now as of June 13th? Still waiting.
Still waiting, yeah. SpaceX is working on fixing and re-verifying that LOX leak on the Falcon 9. NASA and Roscosmos are investigating and planning the response to the ISS leak.
And ISR leadership is right there on the ground at KSC.
Reportedly, yes. Chairman Narayan and others are keeping a very close eye on proceedings, ensuring those safety standards are met before they give the green light from their end.
So it's a waiting game, but hope remains.
Oh, absolutely. The crew seems optimistic. Delays are frustrating, but they're part of the reality of spaceflight. There are launch windows later in 2025 if needed. They'll go when it's safe.
So for someone listening, maybe thinking, okay, rockets and space stations, interesting, but how does this affect me? What's the connection?
Well, on a practical level, the science they do, studying food, materials, biology, that knowledge often translates back to benefits here on Earth. Things we might take for granted someday could have origins in ISS research.
And it's also a story about national ambition, isn't it? Seeing a country like India make these strides in a complex field like human spaceflight is significant. It shows what's possible.
Exactly. It's about capability, innovation, and pushing boundaries. And on a simpler level, it's just inspiring. Human curiosity, overcoming huge challenges, dreaming big that resonates, I think, regardless of the specific mission.
Yeah, it really does. This whole Axiom-4 delay situation, it just perfectly highlights how incredibly complex and challenging human spaceflight really is. It's not routine, not by a long shot.
And ISR's firms stand on safety, even when it means waiting longer, even when it's frustrating. It really drives home that fundamental principle. When human lives are on the line, safety has to be the absolute, unwavering priority.
It makes you think, doesn't it? As we keep waiting for Axiom-4 to finally get off the ground, maybe the most important lessons from all this won't just be the scientific data they collect in orbit.
What do you mean?
Maybe it's also about the lessons learned right here on Earth. Lessons in patience, in careful international collaboration, and perhaps most importantly, in that absolute commitment to safety first before reaching for the stars.